Star Wars The Acolyte just released its season finale, and oh wow, it's divisive. Who would have thought? So let's talk about it. The whole reason I'm doing this video is not to insult anybody's intelligence or trying to say you're stupid for liking this or not liking it, yada yada yada. It's because you get online and you're met with two communities within the Star Wars community. And it's either the people who sniff every fart that Disney puts out and goes, "Oh, thank you, Disney. It smells like roses and daffodils. May I have another?" without giving or even accepting valid criticisms of the shows that come out. And then you have the other side, which is overcritical, hates every aspect of this new era of Star Wars we're in so much that they can't even say, "Oh, this is a good aspect of the show," or "This was a bad aspect," or "I like this part, but I didn't like this part." It's all just hate and anger because it's not exactly what they want it to be. Okay. So let's try to be as unbiased as possible here. I think that when any Star Wars media is released, it has two battles to fight, right? It has to stand on its own as a good movie, TV show, video game, whatever, and it has to stand inside of the Star Wars universe and be good Star Wars as well. It has to add to the continuity. It has to add to this universe that a lot of people grew up loving or maybe just started loving. So let's start with the good. How about that?
The full power of the dark side.
I think the fight scenes and the choreography was very good. I heard a lot of interviews about how it was going to surpass the prequels. I don't think it quite did that, but they did a very good job on it for sure. I love the inclusion of hand-to-hand combat. It makes a lot of sense in Star Wars, especially for Jedi. I hope that they really build upon what they accomplished in The Acolyte with fight choreography. I think Omir is a great character. I love the actor that played him. He's very believable in that role. I love his timing and delivery of his lines, and he was a very great opposite to Sol, who is also a great actor, and I love everything I see him in. I also like Jackie a whole lot. I think she was a great Padawan. She seemed to pull off that role really well. I also like the mother of the Coven. I think she was super believable in that role, even if I'm not so sure about the Coven and the witches. She did a really great job. Now, here's the problem.
I got a bad feeling about this.
There's a lot of other things I enjoy about this show, but one of the main faults of this new era of Star Wars is the consistency in the quality of production. And that's in every aspect of these shows. Sometimes the set design looks really great and well done. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the costumes and the character designs are really well done. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the dialogue is good and meaningful and palpable. Sometimes it's... And I don't mean that in like an overall sense of all the shows. I mean in just one show that's a problem. And I don't know how that problem arises or how you fix it in production, but it's something that needs to be fixed because it's every single show besides Andor that I see it in. Now, I'm not here to nitpick, but something that needs to be talked about is the Witches' Coven. I love the idea of there being other Force users out there that aren't associated with Sith or Jedi. They're their own little groups, or maybe just one person that taught themselves how to use the Force. And the Witches' Coven is a great idea. I love the Witches of Dathomir. I wish that these witches were better. And that's another problem with this new era of Star Wars, are great ideas and poor execution. We could have had a really cool, awesome Witches' Coven, but we got the power of many
to the power of two.
The idea of two children being put through a ascension ritual to become leaders in this coven, in this cult, sick idea on paper, so cool. The way they pulled it off was dumb. There's so many things you could have done and taken inspiration from. What comes to mind for me is the ending of the movie The Witch, and how just creepy and a little chaotic and this unnerving feeling you get watching that scene. But with this, it was just so underwhelming. Speaking of underwhelming, the crystal bleeding at the end of the season finale, super underwhelming. It just looked like a glow toy. It looked like a toy lightsaber changing colors. I don't expect somebody to do backflips or for there to be a 30-minute scene of this crystal bleeding, but something like maybe just the stuff around her gets blown back a little bit. Maybe a little lightning comes from the saber blade. Something that looks better than a toy lightsaber changing color. One thing I have to add, in the season finale, the senator and his scathing monologue on the Jedi, I think that did a better job of portraying the Jedi as fallible and human than the writing and the story arc of the show. I'm just going to say it. They didn't do anything wrong. That woman turned into a giant shadow monster with razor sharp teeth and full-on black eyes and started consuming her daughter in front of these Jedis.
Man, do you want to live?
Or whatever she was doing. It looked evil. It looked evil. Soul wasn't wrong for killing her, okay? I can see what they were going for, don't get me wrong, but I think they could have just did it better. They could have wrote it better, for sure. But one thing I was telling myself while watching the show is that it's from the perspective of the Sith. All of the Skywalker saga is kind of from the perspective of the good guys. This is from the perspective of the Sith, so things are gonna look a little different, I think. Now, I'm not gonna nitpick every single little aspect about this show. I don't think that media, TV shows, movies have to be so perfect and everything has to be great for me to have fun with it and enjoy it. I enjoyed watching the show for sure, but there's something that I want these new era Disney Star Wars fans that have zero criticism, ride or die, hardcore fans to do. I want you to take a look at Acolyte and its writing, and I want you to compare it to Breaking Bad, to Game of Thrones, minus the last season, to the first season of Walking Dead, the first season of Lost. Compare it to these other great TV shows. If you want to keep it in universe, compare it to Andor, and I think you'll find
every single thing in it is mid.
That it's not on the same level as those things, because truthfully, it's just not. I want it to be. I want Star Wars to thrive and be in the same league as these Game of Thrones, these Breaking Bads, these juggernauts of shows that millions of people love, but it's just not there.
Mid!
Something that I want all the nitpickers and the strict canon and headcanon people that just absolutely hate and obliterate the show every chance they get. Are some of the things that you're criticizing worth criticizing? Does it really matter that Ki-Adi-Mundi was in this show if he didn't know anything about the Sith? He's an alien species. Yoda lives to be 900. Is it not also acceptable that other alien species can live to be older? Like, I don't get that. I can understand being mad if something just completely breaks canon, but none of the content in this show does that. Some people I've heard say that the twins diminish Anakin and what he's about and the virgin birth and yada yada. They're not really the same thing. I don't think one diminishes the other. I don't get that criticism either. But what do I know? I'm not in TV or movies or any type of production. I don't know what goes into it, so who knows? But I had a decent time watching this show. I think all in all, it was mid.
Mid!
It was pretty mid. At some points, it was a little bit better than mid. Some of the acting was good. Some of the acting was bad. Some of the acting was mid. I do think that if you took episode 5 and released it as a fan film before Acolyte ever came out, released it as a fan film on YouTube, it would be the highest viewed, highest liked, highest commented thing on YouTube ever, and I think everybody would love it. But since it's in this show, people have all these nitpicks about it. It's a really great episode. I think it stands out. I don't know if we're gonna get a season 2. I'm getting kind of mixed signals on what the ratings and viewership of the show are. Part of me hopes we do. Part of me doesn't care. There's not a part of me that thinks, oh, I don't want them to do a season 2. Star Wars is dead. They're killing Star Wars. It's not that serious, dog. I kind of want to see what they do and if they can pull it off and do it in a higher quality. I think at the end of the day, if you love or hate this show, it is fine to express your opinion. But if you're fighting and attacking people over Star Wars, you are dumb.
Dumb.